Welcome to another edition of Anglican Unscripted. This is episode 272, the casual early morning edition. I'm not sure when you're going to see it, but we are recording this before 9, and that's fraught with error. I'm Kevin Carlson.
And I'm George Conger, and today's March 1st, 2017.
Okay, the audience has not seen us together for a couple weeks now, and well, lots been happening, George. You've had some family health issues. My dad has had some family health issues, and we'll bring people up to speed on that before we get to the news. First, you don't know if you guys know this, but there's something called a bladder pacemaker, and my father had one installed, and it comes with remote control. And let me tell you what he lost first. George, how's your family doing?
Did he lose the remote control? Yeah.
He did lose the remote control. I was on the phone with Mom the other night, the day after the surgery, and I heard Dad in the background, "Pat, where's the remote control? I can't find it. Pat, get in here." And,
What does the remote control do? I mean,
basically they're able to stop for elderly people. There's an urgency frequency issue, and they can cut that nerve. And basically, when you feel full, push this button, and all will be well. However, don't lose the remote control.
sort of like a trash compactor,
like a trash compactor,
metal plate squeeze, and
yes. And so Dad, who could never keep the garage remote control, the television remote control, or any remote control, they got a bed once that went up and down, lost the remote. So, it was just going to happen. You need to duct tape it to his arm, so you always have it. That's Dad, and that's me in 28 years. How about you, George?
I am recovering from the flu. I lost about 10 days of my life, sick as a dog. And let's see, both my parents are in a nursing home right now. My dad started to get progressively, more dysfunctional.
Mm-hmm.
And one Sunday after church, my mother called and said, "George, come over. Your father's fallen in the driveway and he can't get up." I said, "Call 911. And my mother said, "Well, he doesn't want to. He wants you to come pick him up. He says 911 costs too much." It's free in the United States, emergency services. So I came and I picked him up and I dusted him off. And the next morning, my mother said, "You need to come over. Your father's acting very strangely." And I'm getting a wave in my ear. Are you?
Yeah, it's your mic. Keep talking. It'll go away.
I got a call from my mother saying,
Yeah.
"Come over. And your father is acting very strangely." And I came over, and he had been sitting in a chair in the hallway all night since about 2 a.m. and telling my mother that I was going to take him to Pittsburgh. And we've never been to Pittsburgh.
Apparently, this is an unfulfilled promise, George.
And so I helped get him dressed, and we're going to take him to the emergency room. And as I was putting his socks on, I had my head down near his ankles, and his hand happened to rest on my head, and he started petting me, going, "Kitty, kitty, kitty." And at that point, my mother lost her marbles. Thinking, "Oh, my God, your father's gone crazy." Well, we took him in, and long and short, he had a brain tumor. And the brain tumor was taken out a week last Monday at the University of Florida Hospital in Gainesville, and the surgery was successful. There's a hole in his head about the size of a silver dollar. We're very fortunate that the tumor was not mixed into the brain, but was between the skull and the brain itself. Mm-hmm. So they had to remove portions of the skull to remove the tumor. And while waiting for the tumor surgery over the weekend, my mother had a heart attack out of stress, I guess. So they now are in the same room at the nursing home just down the street from us. And so I come by every day with the dog and bring them some pizza or some
Good. Yeah.
things that they're not allowed to eat on the menu there. And I'm very happy because I purchased for them very good insurance a little while ago, and they can stay there for the next 99 days. And I told them, I'm not picking you up till you're through rehabilitation.
You know, and in honesty, and I found this with my parents, there's a little discomfort with being in the hospital medical facilities that, I'd rather be home. And, you had your surgery for your back, and the last place you wanted to be was the hospital. So it's an understandable feeling. All
Well,
right.
this
Yeah.
gives my wife and I an opportunity to clean their house, to sort my father. I I had some crises where I found that my father, as he was declining under the influence of the tumor, had been paying some bills and not
Hmm.
others. So his water bill is prepaid for 6 months, but the electric went off one day, and I checked because he hadn't paid the bill. And so I'm going through the process of I couldn't get anybody to give me I couldn't get a I tried to get his power of attorney as he was preparing for surgery, but I couldn't get a notary to sign off because he's obviously not of right mind. You can't have him sign
Why
off.
would he give power of attorney to the cat?
So it's been if you have elderly parent, not elderly, but if you have aged parents
Sure.
who are physically infirm, it's going to hit you at one time or another. And as I'm the eldest son, it all falls to me. So exciting.
Yeah. This
The
is the
year,
day and age.
it's the year the kids are going to graduate from college within a year, no, next year, but as the kids graduate from college and leave the nest, the parents come
Come
back into
back. Yes. Absolutely. But I was thinking about this the other day. This is the age to get sick. There's so many cures and treatments for almost anything that ails you. The doctors can keep you alive, albeit for driving your car off the bridge. Some very rare forms of cancer.
But see, but what I know from my work as a parish priest, this is a wonderful place for medical care if you're very rich or if you're very poor.
Oh, sure.
My parents, I pay a great deal of money for their health insurance, and they have fantastic care. A helicopter flies them to the University of Florida for brain surgery, top flight surgeon in the state. Now, if they were on state assistance, they'd have the same quality of care because the government would pay for it. It's the 70% of the people in the middle who have massive insurance, who don't want to pay $2,000 a month
All right.
or for premiums. And you may think, wow, that's massively expensive, but I think just one helicopter ride covered my dad's premiums for 2 months. So,
Wow. Yeah.
but it's the people it's people like me who don't have massive amounts of cash lying around, but who are not poor enough for the state to pick up the tab. That's where it's difficult.
Wow. Also, let's talk about some news going on out there. Oh, by the way, do keep us in your prayers. We get sick. We have parents. We have children. We don't just sit down and have a Heidi Flighty fun time talking web cameras once a week. We actually live lives. Strangely. Let's talk about some Bruno news. Bishop Bruno is the bishop of California? What is it?
Los Angeles.
Los Angeles,
Los
sorry.
Angeles.
This is the 9 o'clock issue I was talking about. It's too early to record, George. He's the Bishop of Los Angeles, and he's been involved early on with the land fights using, what's the cannon they use? Dennis cannon. Sorry. See? 9 a.m. Uses the Dennis cannon. And so he thinks he knows a lot about property. Yeah, turn your phone off. Can you do that?
Just did.
You're so busy. And this is what I was talking about. You're too busy. And lo and behold, he's under investigation for misconduct as a bishop. and he's done some gnarly things out there, George.
Kevin, this is almost a non-story in the
Hmm.
sense that at this point, if you're only discovering that John Bruno is a bit of a scoundrel or a skunk or whatever we can say without being sued for slander.
Yeah.
Well, I can't say we can't say he's a skunk because he doesn't have a white stripe down his
No,
back.
it's white hair.
Okay,
Got that white hair. That
he's
mean.
got the white hair.
Yeah.
Well, Bruno, at this stage, there are two latest news. His hearing comes up in March, and it's being held in Pasadena, California. Now, the way the Episcopal disciplinary system works is that he has had 4 or 5 opportunities to say, I'm sorry, or I didn't mean to, or let's be friends.
Yeah.
So this hearing, and he's turned them all down, and he has fought them with legal procedural arguments and with I'm the bishop, I can do whatever I want arguments, and it hasn't flown. And so he has a hearing, and at this point, there's no real dispute over what he did. The question is, what are they going to do to him?
Right.
And since he's retiring, since his successor's been elected, I think that they're going to basically smack him on the wrists and issue a warning to any future monster bishops: don't act like John Bruno. But his pension, he has no real downside other than embarrassment. And how could he be further embarrassed?
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
he's reached the point where, all right, whatever you're going to do it to me. I get to retire. I get my pension. I, go to one of my properties in the South, and that's that. I'll show up for the general conventions and be the retired bishop.
it's like Charles Bennison would still shows up for things. And how can you be even more embarrassed than Charles Bennison was embarrassed by his colleagues? But Bruno's always been a bit of a bully, a bit of a thug, always considered insensitive to the feelings of others.
That's what we've heard.
That's what we've heard.
That's what we've heard.
And I mean, I've interviewed him once, and he gave me the "fu" stare with great. But see, I'm as big as he is, so I'm not physically intimidated by him.
Hmm?
He had been a pro football player in his younger days. I think with the Denver Chargers, but I digress.
Okay.
Or is it the San Diego Chargers?
Yeah.
The Denver
Well,
Broncos.
you're catching on real quick here. You're not a sports guy.
I'm not a
Yeah.
sports guy.
You're not a
But
sports guy.
he had played football for a year or two. And so he doesn't physically intimidate me. But he's got nothing left. The other big Bruno news, was that he lost a lawsuit where the original donor of the property at St. James, Newport Beach, called the Griffith Corporation, it objected to his trying to sell the land, saying, look, under California law, it comes back to us if it no longer has church purposes. Well, Bruno won that battle because the Griffith Company didn't renew their claim every 30 years. And then Bruno turned around and sued them to try to get all the money back that he spent on lawsuits, making the claim that the Griffith Company was slandering the title and all this, all these legal things. Well, the Court of Appeals in Santa Ana, California, said to Bruno, no, sorry, you're wrong. You're so wrong, in fact, you have to pay the costs for the Griffith Company in their lawsuit. Now, Griffith doesn't get the land back, but they get several $100,000 of legal fees back, courtesy of the Diocese of Los Angeles. In other words, again, if you're only now waking up to the fact that John Bruno
Has character issues.
issues,
Yes.
that some of these things that the Apostle Paul would write about Christians not suing each other, or that a bishop is a man of this.
Yeah.
He's not even a man of one wife. He's divorced and remarried, but we won't go into that.
Intact, that doesn't matter. Come on.
So the Bruno, it's coming to its squalid conclusion.
Okay.
And this is an embarrassing chapter for the Episcopal Church. And to be perfectly frank, this is not a left-right issue. The liberals in the diocese, some of the progressive leaders, have long been fighting Bruno because he's a thug. Now,
We've heard
when
that's what we've heard.
that's what we've,
You're going to end up in court, George. You know.
I think his
Okay.
behavior is characteristic of someone with who behaves like a thug.
Okay.
And this is a human issue. It's not an ideological issue, and it's just a shame that well, they're bad people in every walk of life. They just shouldn't be in the clergy.
Well, let's end this show on some good news then, George. Breaking last night, we got a press release from Joy Hunter saying that at this convention coming up in March, the Diocese of South Carolina is going to entertain a vote to join the ACNA. Now, of all the characters in the Anglican Church, the Episcopal Church, Mark Lawrence started his delve into this. I guess it was 2007 he was consecrated. I was there. I filmed it. Maybe it was 2008, not 2007. And he was attacked early on. You can't be a bishop because, lo and behold, you're going to take this diocese out of the Episcopal Church and steal all our property. He said, no, I'm not. But in the end, the Episcopal Church forced him to leave, George.
Yes, this was Catherine Jefferts Schori, being Catherine Jefferts Schori, making a stupid, vindictive, petty, passive-aggressive attack on Mark Lawrence. And she only really attacked people who did not have a lot of backing within the House of Bishops. She would never moved against John Howe or Jim Stanton, people who was equally conservative as Mark Lawrence, had a broad base of friendships within that across party lines. Mark Lawrence didn't, and Mark Lawrence made himself obnoxious to Catherine Jefferts Schori, in her opinion, and she decided to nail him. And as I've said on the show before, the ACNA owes its existence to Catherine Jefferts Schori.
Sure.
If Henry Parsley had been elected instead of Catherine Jefferts Schori, Henry Parsley, Bishop of Alabama, none of this would have happened. Now, what is parallel histories and all this and that. That's fun as far as it goes.
That's fun for
But
Star Trek. This is the real
yeah,
world, George.
and the real world is that I'm fairly confident that the South Carolina Convention will ratify the move to join the ACNA. But Kevin, the tone I'm hearing from people unofficially is that, well, why not? What else
Why
are we
not?
going to do?
It's the only choice,
So, in other words, it's when you get married, you really should be in love, and that this is the only. You can't think of it. You can't live without this other person. And
what
South
kind of marriage
Carolina,
do you have?
a good one. It's been 30
Oh,
plus years.
oh yeah, okay. In 30 years, I make my wife roll her eyes back in annoyance at least twice a night.
Could you imagine your life without her, or being any
No.
different?
And I think
Okay.
that's what's going to happen with the ACNA and the diocese.
But my point is that the ACNA is basically coming on South Carolina. I'm not saying they're making a wrong choice, but I wish there was more enthusiasm for the choice they're making. The ACNA is a worthy partner for South Carolina.
Oh, absolutely.
However, the mindset is like, oh, we've come out of a bad divorce. We might as well marry our current girlfriend, which is not, as when I counsel people, I say that's not a good enough reason to get married. So I wish there's just be a bit more passion and enthusiasm.
Well, I got to say, the passion may not be public, but they put enough time in. They're not having a rebound marriage here. This isn't jumping out of the Episcopal Church and into the ACNA bed right away. Let's see what happens. I mean, it'll be a real strong contingent to have the Diocese of South Carolina as part of the ACNA. The ACNA needs this. The diocese needs this, and it's something you guys need to be praying about. George, we've hit 20 minutes. I don't know how we did it. I'd bid you guys a wonderful week. George, any suggestions for people who are about to take the ashes and want a good discipline for Lent?
Watch Anglican Unscripted. That's penance enough.
Yeah, there's 272 episodes out there. That's crazy. I'm Kevin Carlson.
And I'm George Conger, and you've been watching episode 272 of Anglican Unscripted.